Everything's ready to go when 7 p.m. arrives.
I have 7.
Okay, we ready all to start?
Yes.
Okay. This is a special town board meeting being held on October 29th, 2020 via teleconferencing using Zoom with a YouTube live stream to the public due to the coronavirus emergency state and federal bans on large meetings or gatherings and pursuant to Governor Cuomo's executive order 202 passed issued on March 12th, 2020, suspending the open meetings law. There's no audience participation allowed at this meeting. Members of the public may view the board meeting as it is live streamed on the town board videos page of the Town of Clinton website. A copy of the 2021 budget is posted on the front page of the website. So at this time, I call the meeting to order. There's no flag and no pledge at this time. We'll do a roll call vote. Supervisor Oberly here. Councilwoman Cunningham.
Here.
Councilman Giuliano.
Here.
Councilman Dean Michael.
Here.
Councilman Witten.
Here.
Town Clerk Mackin.
Here.
We have a quorum and all members of the town board are present. The first item on the agenda is a discussion of the preliminary budget to see if there are any changes or whatever we want to do. Then at the end of it, we will then approve whatever is the outcome of any of the discussion and have a public hearing on Thursday, November 5th, if we find that acceptable. Who wants to make any comments? Just so you realize, you saw that the numbers were 60,000 over the tax cap, and that's without any changes being made tonight. Now we can reduce that by taking out some things that we sort of added during the last workshops. I compiled them all. I did do a few variations. For example, I took the benefits for the secretary to my office for Sam from children and a parent down to just a single person is the potential new secretary to me. So that saves some money. So I did a couple things like that to try to balance it out and save some money here and there. But what's your pleasure? Who wants to open up with something?
Well, I think we should, I mean, I understand cutting is where we want to focus, but I think we can talk about revenue again. I'm going to maintain my position that you have $200,000 budgeted for the sales tax revenue. We've already brought in $209,000 as of the end of September this year, and this was the pandemic year. We've brought in well over 200 every year for the past 6 years. We can very, very safely budget even 225,000. And that takes 25,000 off of the 60 that were over the cap. And I think we can do that extremely safely. We could probably go a little higher, but to be conservative, which I agree with, I think at least 225.
That number I put in was what Dutchess County guarantees us from the sales tax revenue that they get as part of the agreement we have with them. So, and that's what I put in because when I started, we had no idea what's happening. Now, news is getting better. Sure, we can go up 20,000 if you feel comfortable with that. And I'll do that. But let's, agree that that's a change we all want to make.
Yeah.
Well, here's a problem. We've already noticed that the state is withholding 20%. Eventually, if they don't get any reimbursement, they may be cutting the 20% permanently. We're not calculating any of that into the budget either.
You mean the AIM funding?
Or any type of reimbursement from the state,
Yeah.
whether it be AIM, CHIPS, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
That means it's coming out of us. And if we're not, considering that that's a possibility, then we're not only just 64,000 in the
It's
hole, we're
probably
actually
more.
more.
Could be more. Yeah,
But that's part of my point. I don't know that the 64 is necessarily real when we're already, I mean, this year, which has been the worst of the pandemic, obviously it's been the pandemic. I think if you look at the first 9 months, you can kind of extrapolate that we'll end up around 270, 280,000 in sales tax.
No, I fully understand what you're saying and the reasoning behind it. I do not disagree. My concern is that we're not calculating the other 20% that the state may be withholding from us. But then also what Ray is saying is what he gave us was the guaranteed number. What happens if the county, because I haven't seen the county budget yet. I think Marcus has put something out there, but we don't know that, he's going to, try to cut somewhere himself.
No, we have a contract with him, and I've been in meetings.
Oh, we have the contract for the guarantee.
For the guarantee.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is so that if we estimate more than the guarantee and the county tries to, solve some of their budget issues, we may not get more than the guarantee.
So Dean, you're saying the best thing at that point, rely on as 200 as the minimum?
I just think it's all a guess. I mean, we could take Michael's numbers and be totally 100% correct. We could take Ray's numbers and be 100% correct. I'm just throwing it out there that we need to think about these things because we haven't totally considered everything. And I just think being $64,000 over the cap at a time that the county is not going over their cap and many of the other towns are not going over their caps, I just don't think is financially responsible.
Being at that over the cap at that number, I did a quick calculation from last year's tax rate. It's about a 5.5% increase in taxes.
Mhm.
That's just what, we're talking about. Typically, we don't like to exceed like a 2%. I'm just saying, we've done 2 or less than that or under it, okay? But it's in
Right,
the
but we
ballpark is where
we
we
raised
are.
the taxes a penny last year. We're now talking about raising them 12 cents.
Yeah,
That's a huge increase.
yeah.
Part of the
5%.
And at our level, 12 cents a thousand doesn't sound like a lot, because it's only talking $36, per $300,000 house. So it's not like a lot of money, but still, it's just a matter of being financially responsible during a time where our finances are not guaranteed.
Well, the other thing is the residents, many of them are still not working.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
you
and
don't
many
know when they're
businesses are
going back
saying
to
that if
work.
they don't get back to work, they're going to be closing for good. I mean, Broadway Dinner Theater, right in Michael's warehouse, has decided not to stay in business.
Yeah. Well, I just meant, just the local people having to pay taxes without having a job to supplement them and just relying on unemployment insurance or the $600 a week unemployment or 300, whatever the number is, it keeps moving around. So, I was just trying to be careful. That's all.
Well, what is everyone?
Again, I'm not arguing about your numbers, and I'm not arguing really about what Michael's proposing. I'm just saying that we haven't taken in consideration for the potential that the state's going to cut 20% out of any reimbursement. And also, there's no guarantee that the county will give us more than what the guarantee is.
Right.
So to kind of hedge, we could be 100% correct by hedging, but I can't be prudent in trying to take a less than conservative approach.
So then if that's the case, and we're looking at trying to get this down from the extra 64,000 that's over, where are we looking at taking out? I mean, we have some salaries that we changed last time. There's good question. I mean, I still think as minor some of the stuff is, as us elected officials could kind of hold. I know we said on the council members were willing to hold back on their 2% increase. Seemed pretty much unilaterally last time. I mean, should we step back some of the other salaries? For us elected officials to cut back on that? I mean, that's really where it is. I mean, some of the other numbers that we went over.
It's one of the few places we can cut.
And even if we take it out of the unfunded balance, it's still, all we're doing is kicking the can down the hill. So, yeah, we could balance the budget this year, but that number is still going to affect it the next time.
Right.
I would say to Dean's point, I agree. Like we went up a penny last year, but that was with transferring funds from the unexpended balance to keep it low.
Mhm.
We've been doing that for several years.
Right. And that's fine. You can balance that out if we, like Michael says, if we get that extra tax money, then great, the fund balance is going to go up and we can continually do that. We're not in a bad financial position. In fact, thanks to Ray, you've been building up the fund balance over the last, several years, and that's great. And that's fine if you want to take it out of the fund balance to try to balance it. But if we do not get the extra revenue, then all we did was delayed the inevitable.
Especially next year's budget, we'll have a problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you could have a problem.
So I have one other issue with revenue before we talk about expenses is if I'm looking at it, under cemetery interments and burials,
Yep.
there is a mysterious $44,133 in revenue that I don't know where that came from.
Oh, very simple. This is the deal on cemetery expenses and revenues.
Yeah.
When we brought in the cemetery money
Yeah.
from the 3 cemeteries, I established 3 TA accounts, trust and agency accounts, one for each one, so that we would be able to know precisely how much money is coming out of them and what's left. I was not trying to raid them and just saying, I could have scooped them all up and put them into the budget last year and I'd have had I don't know, I'll say $75,000 more dollars, okay, of revenue. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Put it on these TAN accounts. So what I do is I take the information in the budget of expenses, add them all up. I take the money from the revenues that we expect for burials or whatever, or selling lots or whatever, and subtract the 2. The difference of those 2 is what we need as net income to balance it because we don't get enough revenue.
All right. And that's
So
what I just,
took that money from a TA account, happens to be the Pleasant Valley one, I think. That's immaterial. So I took that, and that's where it came from.
yeah, that's what I assumed it was. It's completely unlabeled. It just is sitting there unlabeled. So I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah, that's where it is.
Okay.
I could figure out putting a better labeling on it. I thought you all knew about it because we talked
Well,
about
I
it before.
assume that's what it was, but if anybody in the public downloads the budget, they would have no idea what that was.
So, and then at the end of the year, I look and see how much is not spent. In other words, take again the revenues that we put in, the revenues collected, the expenses, subtract them all. And then at the last meeting in December, I transfer that money back to the TA account so it doesn't get lost and be buried in the unfunded balance.
Mhm.
So, we can keep sort of good records on what's happening to that money for every audit from a cemetery basis.
Thank you.
So that's all the revenue stuff we're talking about?
That's all I had.
Okay. Do we want to resolve adding, say, 20,000 to the tax
Oh,
city, sort of a compromise or something? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. We gotta do something if we want to do something.
Well, I would want it to be 225, I think is reasonable, but I obviously am one vote, so I'll,
Oh, well, I just picked a number. I mean, 25 is okay. I'm not questioning that kind of change, but I just was saying, should we do a number? That's all. An increase. Does everybody agree or disagree or?
Well, what do you think? What do you think the real number might be this year? I would guesstimate.
So at the end of September, if the supervisor's report, it was at 209,000.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not perfect to divide it by 9 and then multiply by 12, but if you, I know it's not perfect, but if we do that, it gets us to 278. I mean, and that's definitely, that's almost 50,000 less than we got last year. We were over 300,000 last year.
I know.
But, you know, 278, I think we should definitely not plan for, but
Well,
I think that means 225 is probably reasonable.
well, the other difficulty with sales tax, you must remember, the sales tax collected in Dutchess County is what you see in the sales tax that we get. The sales tax collected on the internet goes to the state government. They parcel it down. So, and as you know, during the COVID virus time, a lot of people are going on the internet. So the sales taxes being collected by New York State government are probably pretty big, but we do not have any direct access or ability to withdraw money from that organization.
And plus the part of the sales tax revenue for this year actually came from the end of last year, right?
Well, yeah,
So, I mean, last year could have been a much higher in-person tax versus this year, maybe people aren't going to go out shopping. They're going to do it all online. So even if we took, you know, a guesstimate, we may not be getting that revenue the same way that we did last year.
yeah, we don't see that as a direct line item in my budget.
No, I understand.
At New York State sales tax.
Again, I'm hedging again that, you know, the numbers may be worse than what we expect.
So that's the story on the sales tax. Yeah, I'll go 25 if everybody's happy with it. But, you know, we got to pick something, and we have no magic ball that we can figure out a better number.
Well, I mean, if everybody's fixed on all the other numbers, I would rather leave the revenues the same and just take the money out of the fund balance. And this way, if we do get that extra revenue, we can just refund the fund balance. You know, but I don't want to do both. I don't want to take the money out of the fund balance and then, you know, estimate high and come in short on two ends.
Well, the other difficulty I have taking it out of the fund balance,
I know what it is.
I gotta have cash in the bank to write checks in January, February, and March to pay the highway people, to pay for the extra salt, sand, oil, for the trucks, fuel for the trucks, salaries for the clerks and everybody else, the electric and all. Yes, there's no money there. You realize, I mean, you're all business people and you're aware of what's going on. You gotta have cash in the bank to write a check. I don't have cash in the bank for the budget
For the first 3 months.
for the first 3 months.
Well, and we
Because the
discussed this
taxes
before
weren't-
because, you know, and I even think it was Michael that brought it up last time, which is that the revenues are coming in on a weekly basis once people start paying their taxes. So we're getting that revenue in, and maybe all of it doesn't come in by the time we need to write a check in February, but yet there is still that money that's coming in on you know, a weekly basis right after the first of the year when people get their tax bill. So it's not like you know, we just zeroed it out and we're not getting it for 3 months. We're going to be getting it right along the way.
But that's not that amount of money. And realize it's not just my town expenses I got to deal with. We're collecting the money for the library, for the 2 fire districts. And
But we don't pay them until they get, you know, until we get that money.
No, I know, but we got to get the money from the taxes so I can write a check for them too.
Oh, I understand, but we could proportionally pull out, you know, what each person is getting as we should. And once we get it all, then we pay them their portion.
That's what I do. That's what I do. And that's
But I'm
what-
saying as far as us spending money ahead of time, it's not like we're going broke for 3 months before we get a check. And we're getting money right along the way.
but not enough to keep it going.
Well, maybe not. And because we still have a lot of money in our fund balance anyway.
We wind up with about a little over 500,000. So, I mean, that's the whole purpose of having it, so you can write checks.
So the thing is if, to me, I don't see what order we do it in. If we, say make the sales tax revenue 225, so now we only need to take 40 or whatever out of fund balance.
Right.
Then if we get the 225 or more, we can transfer the 40 back. If we don't, we'll have to pull out a fund balance anyway, again, to cover it.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's.
No, I'm just saying, I don't want to double dip. I don't want to take and overestimated the fund balance or overestimate the revenue.
Yeah.
And then also still take from the fund balance. And I'm not saying that we can't proportionately do one and, half and half or whatever. I'm just saying that.
Then it at least lessens the blow. Maybe it's down to 4% increase in taxes.
I mean, there are several expense items which I would question as being valid, but, we all
Yeah, we
agree
can get to that, too.
that's what we would do in the past. And I says, I don't know what these numbers are gonna be because we had a lot of ups and downs. And I mean, for example, one was, and I'm not saying this is a big swinger, but we went and gave all the rec people a 2% raise. Now, I don't know if that's $1,000 or $4,000. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's a new thing that we did.
Yeah, but the rec people are so low on the total.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying from a dollars and cents standpoint. I'm not even arguing that one, but I'm just saying that was an addition that we did that's included within the 64,000.
Well, and I agree with Chris. Before we nickel and dime the rec people, we should dollars and cents the elected people.
Yeah. I think some of the, one of the things that is reflected in this budget is, some of the salaries have changed this year through, I guess we had several different meetings that took care of that, but we're also trying to get, some of these salaries that were under for a while down. But I think the first thing we always look at is, us as elected officials first, but that's just me.
Well, I have a general comment on that whole situation. This has been going on for many years.
Mm-hmm.
The funding of the budget has been at the expense of the general fund employees. The highway people get their money because they have a contract and we can't touch it. We always shortchange the general fund employees, whether it be clerks, supervisor, assessor, what doesn't matter. And, someplace along the way, it's nice to be the lowest paid, but we're losing people. And unfortunately, I've been here a long time like Carol has, and we've seen a lot of people go just because we don't pay. And that's very demoralizing to the staff.
So right, there's two different parts that you said. So one, I am in favor of bringing, as I said in multiple meetings, getting salaries up to where they need to be, because I do think we're under compared to some of the other towns. But there's the two parts. One is the elected part, and then the general employees that work for the town, which is where the demoralizing part has been. I think it's always better to do it in stages, and I think the plan has been for the years of trying to keep things low. Now everything's kind of hitting us all at once. And unfortunately, it's a down time. If it was a better overall better economy, or better with we weren't dealing with COVID, it would be a little bit less of a blow to people. Like I said, I'm not against raising certain things, but I think it should be phased in over a few years.
Let me just throw out one thing, because when we cut the board's 25%, it was you, Ray, in the audience that said we should cut our pay 25%. So, I mean, here we're now paying for it because it took the 10 years for us to get back to where we were. And we've all agreed that we'll freeze it. And now you're saying that we should be higher, but that's because we cut the pay 25% 10 years ago.
Yeah, and that was done so that Jeff Burns, as supervisor, had enough money to fund the moving of the Masonic Lodge and all these other improvements, the schoolhouse and all of that. You did not cut his expense budget at all. You cut the people. That's what I said.
No, that's not exactly the way I remember it. And I'm not going to go round and round this. You said, he said, it's just, that's what happened. I just wanted to bring that out as a point.
I'm not disputing that. The other thing is, Chris, you said, oh, only the clerks get demoralized. Some elected officials get demoralized too by not having adequate pay or recognition that they're doing it.
Right. I'm not trying to take anything from you or Carol, which is, I guess, where that's going with. And like I said, I do agree that the position is more than what it was years ago. What I'm saying, in a better year, I'd be more apt to do a change drastically like that. I think this year, I see a more of a staged in to get to a point. It's kind of like my philosophy with the highway department with equipment. For years, we weren't buying equipment. We weren't doing stuff. Everything started breaking down. Then we had no plan. That's why I always say in my business, I have a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan, and then I have a 10-year plan to rotate stuff out. And that's what we're now trying to do, all of us, I think, collectively. The question is, how much can we do in 1 year to get that up there? Now, granted, some people may say, on a budget like this, $64,000 is not a huge amount. But at the end of the day, with a lot of people that are, surprisingly, I do a lot of work up here, so I get to know a lot of the clients on a different level, or our constituents on a different level, and people are struggling. It's real. I mean, some of us are lucky enough to be busy. Other people are waiting to try to go back to work. So, it may seem small on a $300,000 assessment, $36, but it's keeps going up. And I'm looking at, what the budget was, the adopted budget for 2020. And then, we have adopted budget for 2021, and we're well over, we're about $119,000 more. Now, granted, some of that stuff has changed in the town. We have different town needs, which I think we all can agree on.
We added $100,000 just for the bonding of the 2 snowplow trucks. Okay, that's coming to haunt us in 2021 through 2025.
Sure. And look, I was the one who pushed
before. And I'm not disputing that we shouldn't or shouldn't buy it, but I'm just saying that represents a significant change in the budget.
And one of the reasons to purchase the item was that we're getting some revenue from the county for plowing the county roads. So, that's an investment when you look at the fact that we're making revenue for using the truck for the purpose of the county roads.
But
the trucks were from 1990s.
I know.
Let's be real. They needed to be
During
phased
that big
out.
snowstorm, 3 vehicles broke
I know.
down. We can't have that happen.
I can relate horror stories on snowplow trucks for the last years. When I first came in office, I had 2 snowplow trucks that worked, couldn't repair any of the others. They were all so old.
But we don't want to have that happen.
That's what happened when I came into office in '92. So, I've gone through buying trucks, all kinds of trucks, trying to get plans through and all. And, certain highway superintendents chose not to have a plan. I can't make them have a plan. So,
Well, they're now starting to make plans. So you will see things change in the future,
fine.
how the things are being done differently. I do agree with you, Ray, that we're losing people and we're not able to recruit the people we need because of salaries.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody has an
So
argument with that.
there's 2 pieces to that. One is the elected officials who, we have to pay, but obviously recruiting them is not the issue at this point. The other thing is, over the past year, we've had to increase salaries in several departments to get the right people in those jobs. We're now going to pay the price moving forward for that extra money. And now that we're losing additional people, tonight we'll be making some motions to appoint people at a higher salary that'll cost more with benefits. It's just, and it's what we have to do. Otherwise, we're going to have not only a budget that's suffering, but we're not going to have the people to do the job. It's simple as that. So salaries for the elected officials, if we had to cut, is one opportunity. Programs is another. I mean, nobody wants to cut programs to the town, but recreation, that's an opportunity that would have to be put on the table if we end up, more penalties from the county, et cetera. And it's all a big question mark right now.
I'm always curious. We always go to salaries. We never want to talk expenses. And I got some expenses I seriously questioned. You all agreed that you wanted them. Fine, I put them in. I don't believe they're real, but.
So
So let's go over expenses. I have no problem cutting it.
Mhm.
I agree with that.
Let's talk with expenses.
I have very specific ones too that I'd like to talk about.
Okay, give me an expense that you want to cut.
1620.472. It's the software maintenance.
Yep.
At the tentative budget, we agreed to 11,800 total under that line. It's currently between the tentative and the preliminary. Now it's up to 19,075.
I-
That's almost 7,000. That is 7,000 that we never spoke about.
Well,
And the second part of that is that this year, 2020, we budgeted $16,000 for that line. And so far we've spent about 3,000. So now we're going to go up to 19,000 for that line and we're not even spending this money. That's where I'm at.
I said when we were doing this that there were changed numbers, but I didn't have the sheet in front of me to tell you what the numbers were.
Okay.
And I put them in now. So some went up, some went down to 0 or half or what. They're all over the place for that. I'll call it computer work, for lack of a better term.
So is that 19?
Michael,
Yes.
are you taking into consideration the equipment a purchase that has to be made for next year?
Well, this is just under the software maintenance. It's not under the purchase of equipment.
Okay.
I just don't get like this year, it's, as I said, we budgeted 16,136. We spent 2,763 so far. So if we're overestimating those expenses by that much money, then I'm going to question this 19,000 for this time as well.
Right, okay.
And that makes it easy. I mean, if that's not a real number, bringing it down, that might be able to help some of the salaries at that point.
Exactly.
So I mean, Ray, you said that number, you made some changes, that particular one that Michael's talking about.
Yeah,
Is that 19,000 a real number? Or, I mean, do you think we're going to be over next year, having extra money in that, not money that was not spent? Because I mean, there's a good opportunity to possibly cut back.
I don't
Cut
know.
something.
We're doing a lot of new work as we're moving ahead and trying to provide the security of the internet and all of the stuff that we're doing for the security of our data and stuff. So we can cut it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think there's some other cuts that probably are more easily understood. At least I don't understand them, but maybe you guys do. For example, we put in $3,000 more for extra fuel oil. Last year, for 2019, we used 8,000 gallons. So we're up to 8,000 plus the 3,000, 11,000 gallons of fuel oil.
But Ray, that you have to understand, we don't have the waste oil, and at that point, so that's going to be the difference, because we were subsidizing a few thousand of that from the waste oil, and now we're going to figure out if what we can do to go more energy efficient and cut the oil out in the propane with doing a new system. But that's what that's reflecting. That's when I pushed to put that in there, was to cover ourselves.
Yeah, I understand. But then you go to propane, which is the replacement system out there. In the prior year, in 2019, we spent $1,500. Okay. We added an extra $2,500 for propane. Now, we either are going to be using propane to heat the place, or we're going to use fuel oil, or aren't we going to heat it with anything? We can go cut firewood and we'll have a wood stove in there. I don't know. What's the plan? We haven't seen anything. I have no numbers. I'm not an expert on how many gallons per day, per hour, any of these things used, but to me, they seem to have been just redundant.
It's not redundant. I mean, you're talking about, like I said, if we cut out on, look, if we went 100% propane on that building back there, that propane number is going to actually go up. The oil will go down. Now, granted, we're going from a 80% furnace to potential of a 95% furnace. I mean, some of that money is going to change. The problem is we don't have a clear plan because of budgetary things on spending, a certain amount of money on that right now. So that kind of gives us a little leeway. That's hopefully we don't use it and it's a mild winter and all the way around that
All
way.
I'm saying is, I see these numbers, I have no guidance from anybody who has an expertise in them. You said 3,000, I added that, I added the other 2,500 just because I knew we were going to propane. I don't know if it should be 5,000, 10,000, or 2,000. I have no feel for that. Now, you may be, as an expert in heating, saying, oh yeah, 2,500 is great. I don't know. Nobody gives me numbers. I got to pick numbers, and I told you that.
Well, we agreed that you those numbers you didn't pick. I mean, we added and we spoke about them in the tentative budget meeting.
And I'm using that information, and I said,
Mhm.
it sounds
Yeah.
strange to me.
So I mean, I think those numbers with the energy end of it, I think I wouldn't touch, because like I said, if we get caught with our pants down on that, we got to have that budget. If we realize that we make a change and we are able to be more energy efficient and that comes down a little bit, that's a win-win.
Okay, I'm just saying, I just have no feel for it. I'm just adding numbers at essentially your judgment. You may be right. I'm not saying you're not right. I just don't know. They look weird.
I'm just saying, if you figured the amount of the amount of waste oil that was sitting in that building, in our buildings when I came in, and then we took out, and that's what they were primarily using, you're going to see $3,000 in oil in essence goes really fast on a building like that, and with the other needs of those doors are open all the time.
Well, if you would have reviewed for the last 2 years the bills that we paid to maintain that oil furnace, you would have seen we were spending like $5,000 to $10,000 a year just on maintenance.
Well, that was the waste oil furnace, because that was the reason why we decided they
I
wanted
understand.
$1,800 and another several $1,000s to do a replacement on the heat exchanger, the chamber.
All I'm just saying is it was very expensive, and I've asked the study be done and nobody did it. And, I can only do so much, but some of that money got buried into other maintenance numbers because that's what we were using, and I use that as a level of insurance. Maybe those maintenance numbers can be reduced after we figure out what system we're going to be using.
Oh, look, it's just like anything. You put new equipment in and it's done properly. You're not maintaining something old. You got manufacturer warranties on parts. You got stuff that, yes, and propane is going to be much easier to maintain than the oil, and it's more reliable.
I understand propane's better and all, but what do I do with it? Does anybody
I
give
mean,
me a
so,
number? No, we're going to just leave it the way it is, I guess.
Let's move on, because, Chris is the expert when it comes to heating and cooling. If he says that's what the number is, let's just go with that.
Okay,
The
we
number.
don't have a plan.
I hope I'm wrong with it, honestly, but I think right now, just because of where we're at, I think that's it's energy. We need to have that energy.
It would have been nice if we had a plan by now, so at least we had something to argue about, but we have nothing, so we can't argue.
Well, the plan, Ray, the plan was we were trying to wait and figure out. I mean, I told you you're estimating between equipment and I said this in one of the meetings, about $30,000 in between running the propane lines from the tank over there, because you got to update everything. You got the equipment, the labor to do those two systems. This year might not physically be the year to do that unless we're going to start using some of that, the fund balance to start doing that, or we're going to be raising taxes. that's why I said to put in for the fuel, and that gives us a little time to make a real assumption.
We got the fuel in.
Unfortunately,
What
that's where we're-
happens next?
All right, so what other items did you have a question about, Ray? Where do you?
Taking the Masonic Hall, I know that's a big priority of a bunch of you, but again, this is on the backs of the employees to fund that, to keep the number down. If you took that 35,000 and took the 20,000 or 25,000 for the sales tax increase, put those two together, you're talking roughly 50,000 or some number like that. So we're 10,000 over the budget. No big deal. That's like 1 penny increase in taxes.
Just remember one thing: when these buildings don't get maintained, and even walking around the town hall, and it's good to start cutting out stuff like that on paper, but it costs 2 times to start replacing and cutting out wood that rots because they're not protected. So, look, I agree with you on the fact that is like, the schoolhouse, I thought that was going to be painted this year. We're still, whatever's going on with that was money that was put aside. There's questions with that too.
But the other similar issue is, I've said for years, and this is my mantra, I said it before, you heard it before, we don't have a generator to keep this place alive when the electricity goes off. We close up, we hope it's not in a cold winter spell where the pipes freeze and we spend $500,000 or $250,000 to replace.
Hey, Ray, I'm on your, over time, if we figure out a way to do it, I think in this day and age, have a generator, but the question is when, and we gotta start. I guess it kind of goes back to having these fund balance policies that we talked about in the beginning of the year, where we can start putting money aside for these expenditures to plan for them. And I'm not saying I agree with you. I think in this day and age, most towns do have some sort of generator on there.
I've been trying to get 1 or 2 grants a year for the last 6 years, and there's always a hitch on trying to get the grant, because sometimes it's got to be for this kind of an organization, or the grant's not for heating and not for buildings like this. I mean, I just couldn't process them. There were restrictions within the grant funding, and I've tried lots of times. So that's that one. And the other thing is, if you really want to start that, then we open up a reserve fund. We actually put it as an expense against general fund, that we take money every year and put it into that reserve fund. And when that reserve fund gets up to the value that is appropriate, say 150,000, I'm just picking a number, then you go to bid and do it. I mean, that's a process that we can do.
And each one of these buildings really should be on a 10-year plan. I mean, it seems like, and having old houses, seems like every 10 years you have to paint old houses.
Right.
And you got to paint old buildings. And so we should have all these buildings on a 10-year maintenance plan where we're putting away the money so that every 10 years we have that reserved aside. And the same thing with the heating system. The heating system's good for 25 years. So we should have a reserve to replace the heating system. So yeah, that's fine. We should be doing that. And we should be allocating that amount of money that we think it's going to cost to replace 10 years from now, or 25 years from now. And absolutely.
I don't know how long this geothermal stuff lasts. I have no idea.
Well, the thing with any technology, solar panels, geothermal, they're like computers. Once you put it in, it's outdated. And so realistically, solar panels are only good efficiently for 10 to 15 years because they lose their ability to generate the electric. And geothermal's the same thing. But the lines that are in the ground should last you forever. You're just updating the circulators.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, we can open those. If we're going to open them up, if you want to do that, we can put that in the budget. We got to put it in as a transfer for whatever that is, and then next year we can actually do a physical.
Can you hear me?
Resolution to do reserve funds for these things.
Yeah, I'm on a Zoom meeting.
So
Mute your phone, mute your Zoom.
Is everything all right?
Fred, can you mute that?
No, I don't, I have no control over it.
So what do we want? I mean, as far as the painting of the building, are we still on board, or you want to try to hold off 1 year on it? I mean, that's the $1 million question. The question is it going to cost us more down the road to deal with those issues? What does everyone else think about that?
That plus the 20,000 extra from sales tax, which I'll agree with, pretty much gets us down into the nickels and dimes without jeopardizing everything else.
Yeah, but then still, if we don't start putting away something,
No, I'm just saying,
then we'll always be short that amount of money.
yep. Fine. Give me a number and we'll put it in, but that adds to the 64.
So, I mean, even if we don't do it next year, we're going to have to do it the year after. So even if we cut that in half, which may not be enough because prices may go up, you know, so even if we cut out 15 and say half of it going into a reserve solely for the fact of painting, then that's fine if we're not going to do it next year.
Yeah. Well, and if we do it next year, we can still use it. It's there.
So you're saying, Dean, on as far as painting, because we
Well,
have
I'm
what,
just
about
saying,
35,000?
I wouldn't cut the number totally out because I would still want to
Yeah. So
money for the following year because we know the following year we're going to have to.
So what are you saying? If it's at 35, drop it down to drop 15?
Cut it in half and then, we'll plan half this year and half next year. And then hopefully the second year we'll have the money to pay for it again.
Second year would be
Again,
2020.
I don't want to kick the can down the road. We know we need to do it. I mean,
And that's a way of doing
maybe
it.
the revenue will be better next year and we'll have all the money to do it the year after.
Yeah.
That's all fine, but I just don't want to totally cut it off the budget and then not get it done.
Right.
I mean, I'm fine with that adage. Even if we took 15,000 off, that's 15 right there. And then we keep that 20,000 into the reserve for,
Yeah,
because we
just
want to make sure
Yeah,
sure
go.
that we have it. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I interrupted you. Continue.
No, I just said that the fact that we want to make sure that we have planned, for the following year, if that's the case, that we're not doing, we have something else happen, then we can't. And because, look, inflation is going to go up, paint's going to go up, the labor is going to go up, do it. So I'd probably say, I'd say maybe instead of going half would be 17.5, 20. So if we're figuring 35 for next year and figuring there might be a couple thousand extra for the following year in labor and materials to do it, but I think if that's the way we want to go.
We're also estimating not having it on a prevailing wage. I mean, that's providing we can find somebody to do the work, as a
All by himself,
operator.
Mhm.
and there's scaffolding involved.
Yeah, definitely on that building stuff, I'm going to be a little bit more involved than the schoolhouse.
So what do we say? 20,000 this year that we'll put it in this year's budget. We're not going to spend it because then we'll add another 20,000 next year.
But let's earmark it and put it aside.
20K,
Yeah.
2021 move to reserve.
But let's earmark it, Ray.
Well, that's what I'm saying, moving
I
it.
don't want it to go into general fund. I want it to be earmarked for the purpose of putting it in the building.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm gonna put it in as a line item, moving money to the reserve fund for painting of the Masonic Hall.
Okay.
Then we have to go through the ritual of doing the resolution in January or February to establish the fund. And then when the money comes in, all the tax dollars come in and we have a balanced budget here, then we just move it over at that time.
That's
It's
fine.
a motion move. It's
That's-
not something that, I just arbitrarily do. It's like we do all these things. You approve the move.
What was the total that you're going to create for the reserve fund?
20? Or
I think you said 20, Chris.
Yeah, I said I would go 20 just because we know by doing it for 2022 would be our goal. We're going to end. The good question
Probably
is
go from
if we-
35 to 40, so we might as well.
Yeah,
figure half of 40 is 20.
yeah.
Yeah, so we move 20 to the reserve and we take 10K and reduce the 64, 15K, remove the 64 by that number.
Yeah.
So,
And then we're gonna increase the revenue, as Michael said, what, 25,000?
I think 25.
25. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
So that brings us down to about 14, right?
Uh,
yeah,
Because we're saving 15 plus the 25,
Right, so we're up to 40,
40s.
or at 14.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's like
Yeah.
about 1%, 1.5% increase, just kind of talking about it.
Well, then why don't we just take the 14 out of fund balance? I mean, I see no reason that we should be going over the cap. I mean, that's just my opinion. Everybody else is keeping within the cap.
Well, we have another, another meeting after the public hearing to see what they have to say. I'm just saying, we have another opportunity to change the numbers. Come up with some new information. Somebody says, oh, you gotta, this person is not going, for example, family plan that's full-time. They're going to single person, okay? That saves you about $20,000, just that change in plan level. Now, I don't know. I put in for the MEO, who I don't know who it is. So I had to put it in at a family plan level, okay?
Mhm.
Before I had it in as a single person. So there was 20,000, it just got added into the budget. You know, it's those kind of changes. So, you know, you got to watch this information with respect to medical coverage. Yeah, you may give the person $5 more an hour or something, but that's peanuts compared to the medical coverage.
Absolutely.
I have a way that could maybe get us another 8,000, but I'm not sure if it's exactly right. We we were talking about buying a mower for the
Yeah.
cemeteries. If I were, do we have the money in the budget to buy it this year? And I can raise, it
I don't know. I didn't look at this year.
would be about $8,000. And if I could go out tomorrow and try and get myself 3 bids, we can approve it at the November meeting and buy it now, and it won't be on next year's budget.
Yeah, well,
But isn't that coming out of the cemetery funds
it's
anyway?
out of the cemetery money.
Oh, yeah, and you're transferring
It's
that.
balanced out, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a savings, but it's not a savings in a real sense.
All right.
So you buy it next year, you buy it this year.
All right. Then I'm going to try to get
Same pool of money. It's just like CHIPS. CHIPS is up in Albany. We have an account up there for, we'll say, $250,000. I'm just picking a number. Until we buy something, that money is not in my budget. So if we buy a truck for 100,000, after we paid for the truck,
Yeah.
send
Get it
them
returned.
out, and then they send back the 100,000. And that
Yeah.
whole thing transpires over about 4 to 6 months. It's a float that we gotta carry.
And again, they've been cutting back 20%, right?
Oh, I know. And you don't know when they're gonna do what, or what other else is gonna pop up.
Did we ever get the AIM money this year that was supposed to come in September?
No. The AIM money is very interesting. It doesn't come from New York State directly. It comes from the county. Somehow the state gives it to the county and the county's got to give it to us. It befuddles me trying to figure out how convoluted we can make government. And it's getting worse and worse every
The
year.
extra layers that we got to get rid of.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just terrible. So, you know, so that lawnmower is really doesn't matter.
Yeah, because it's just, it's all.
Yeah, it just comes out of an existing cash fund
So,
that we have control over.
I
So
thought
we're-
you were going to offer to stand in front of Stewart's with a can and, raise some money for the lawnmower. I mean,
And there'll be short pencils because we can't afford the long ones.
give me a month, I could raise that one. So we're gonna get another bite at the apple then. So we'll do the 2 main things that we talked about. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
And then see what else we can do with the next one?
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with Dean. If we don't need to go over the cap, we shouldn't.
Especially if we get down to that $14,000 range to take it out of the other fund to cover it. I think that's a doable number.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, the 64,000 to take it out, I think is a little bit tough, but we have to.
So we only have essentially two changes: increase sales tax by 25,000 and reduce, well, the painting of 15,000 out of the budget and only put 20,000 to transfer to a reserve fund.
Mhm.
So we're picking up those two numbers. So
And is it possible to, or do we know if we're going to get an answer on the new highway employee anytime soon?
I have no idea. I don't deal with them. I don't deal with them. That's all outside of my control.
What's your question, Mike,
Well,
regarding
if the new person is a single guy with no kids,
that? Yeah.
that's going to make a big difference in the health insurance
Yeah.
that we budgeted.
Yeah.
Instead of somebody that's married with 3 kids, you know.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter how many kids.
How many,
Even one makes a family. Yeah, I mean, those are the rules that we gotta work with. I don't change those numbers. I just gotta know what's happening, but I try to put in my coverage because I don't know who's gonna get hired.
Yeah, it's done right.
Yeah. So we all ready with the budget at this level, and I'll republish it, have it ready Monday, so we can have our public hearing on Thursday. Okay?
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I have one thing on highway,
Yeah.
What?
Ray.
Yeah,
We've discussed it. I know you're not too much in favor of it, but the highways, winter seasonal employee line item has to be changed to reflect the motion that I'll be making later on. The $14.50 an hour for 32 hours with benefits. So that will change that number.
how much benefits do we have to cover? I don't know the person.
He's a single person, probably will refuse the benefits because he's living at home under his parents' health plan.
You gotta
But
ascertain.
we have to assume right now that he would take them.
So,
And that's for half a year. Half a year.
what do you mean half a year?
Well, this position
seasonal.
is for half a year, 6 months position.
So we don't,
A seasonal person.
do we give benefits to seasonal?
No,
No,
it's a full-time position, not seasonal.
but he
Full-time.
may not be here after. Or never mind, forget it. It's a full-time position, okay?
So we gotta pay for that for the
So
year.
that's a,
And if he leaves early, he leaves early.
it's a ticket
That's the
item.
issue.
Whether he takes it or not is up to him, so.
I don't know.
Like I said, this was really a justification that we had last time with Tim Lawler, the same thing where he was paid at a different rate. And we all agreed the last time that you should be paid the same rate.
Right, we lost a good person, plus I don't know if we ever really closed that out or not, so.
This is the position that will be effective this Monday, correct? So we'll know the health insurance.
November 1st through March 31st.
So we should know the health insurance situation by the time we meet again.
Yeah, but he's full-time from then on. You don't change.
Right, but as far as the budget goes, we'll know what the number is.
For the health
I mean,
insurance.
you're right. You were saying about the people getting disenfranchised, with working and trying to find people right off the bat. I mean, we're going from 13 and change to 14 and change, where he's already making it doing it one position to the other. I mean, we're just by your own words saying, hey, we got to, keep people, we want to keep people. We don't want to keep rotating them in and out. It actually costs more in training and everything else that kind of goes with that. The thing is to build on longevity.
I also.
May I add, Nancy, the terminology for this gentleman is seasonal, but then he works until March 31st, but then we do pick him up with a different title in the highway department beginning April 1st.
Okay,
Essentially, it is a full-time job with two different
Titles.
criteria.
Right. But what I want to point out too, the amount of money that we're talking about here, if we are not hiring, okay, a laborer this year.
That's
Okay?
true.
So.
Labor rate is $4 more an hour, so
And the laborer's compensation plan is much greater than what this is costing us. So it's not exactly an expense that is over and above what we would normally do.
Yeah, you know, we just keep making more full-time positions in the highway department and less full-time positions in the general fund. So it's getting a little weird trying to keep track of who's where, what. That's all.
Well, and you know, we've talked about trying to move the whole town complex to a full-time, town. So, I mean, little by little, this is what's happening. It
well,
is.
we've cut the highway too in the last 10 years. We've had positions leave and we didn't fulfill them. So
Right.
Do we need them? That's all. I don't know. Do we really need them is all I'm saying.
well,
And
we're
this is-
using
this
this
is-
person in two different classifications. So
Yeah.
obviously we need-
Right. Two different classifications and entirely different salaries. This one is the lesser. And it really will make up almost the difference of the full-time benefits. And it's trying to have some retention, trying to keep the people who are experienced, who can do the job, and who have proven themselves to be excellent employees. That's it.
I do believe he's married, so it would be just him and his wife.
No, he's not single.
Is he single?
He is.
Oh, I don't know.
He's got a wife, but he also, I think, is under, by his age, is under his parents' health plan. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. His
Okay.
benefits and $14.50 an hour for 32 hours. And that, I will make that motion later tonight.
Okay. So the only two changes are, as I said, increased sales tax, 25,000 and 20K to 2021 to increase the reserve fund to paint Masonic Hall.
Yes.
Okay, now, so we're done with that. Let me do the motion now. I make a motion to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the town board approves the 2021 preliminary budget with the change of sales tax increase of 25,000 and a 20,000 transfer to reserve fund for Masonic Hall painting. And we'll hold a public hearing on budget on Thursday, November 5th, 2020 at 6:30 PM live in the Clinton Town Hall. Is there a second?
Giuliano second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Oberly, aye. Cunningham,
Aye.
Giuliano,
Aye.
Dean.
I'll abstain until we zero out the
Okay.
budget.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, on to the next one. Next one is mine. Approving the resignation of Samantha Smith as supervisor secretary. I make a motion to approve the resignation of Samantha Smith, supervisor secretary, effective October 21st, 2020. Is there a second?
Second, Dean Michael.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, roll call vote. Oberly, aye. Cunningham,
Aye.
Giuliano,
Aye.
Dean Michael,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
motion carried. The next one is the appointment of a supervisor, secretary to the supervisor. Get this right. I appoint Stephanie Timpano as supervisor secretary effective November 9th, 2020. That's not a motion. The next one is a motion, which takes care of wages and hours, etc. I make a motion to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the town board approve that the full-time supervisor position be effective November 9th, 2020 at 32 hours per week at a rate of pay of $19 per hour with full medical, dental, and visual benefits, with the employee paying 15% of the premiums cost. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
Well, I want to talk about, because going over her resume that I seen, and I obviously sat with her. A couple of my concerns that I had was I noticed a lot of her longevity, I guess, at other jobs and stuff like that. Which kind of shows a scenario for, every year, every few months, over, for extended period. And my question was, we're going to train this person because your position has needs to be trained in there. So we're going to invest into this person. I just want to make sure that this is the best person for the job. And I know you're under the gun to get someone. Just one of my questions.
Do we need to have an executive session? Because this is getting into like a personnel matter that.
Yeah.
You can only ask them if they're gonna stay, which was asked of the previous person. They say yes. I mean, you can only go.
COVID changed everything.
I have to also say that part of the resignation of the former secretary, part of it was that COVID and family situation. She does have some unique situations that really were pressing on her. So not to make any excuses, but we had a guarantee for the previous secretary as well. That's all you can ask for.
That's right. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Oberly, aye. Cunningham,
Aye.
Giuliano,
No.
Dean Michael,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
aye. Motion carried. Next one is purchase of PPE supplies. Nancy, your show.
Yes, we are purchasing some PPE supplies for moving forward in the town with any kind of meetings and openings that we can possibly deal with based on the restrictions we have. Like, for instance, I'm hoping that they may be here at time enough for our public meeting, but I don't know that. But we are opening some things up as we're allowed to do that. These particular things will give us the ability to do that. We are whitewashing down the entire town complex on a daily basis, but it's not enough. So we're looking for things to actually spray rooms prior to use, like, for instance, the justice courts. Justice courts are used a few days a week. We'll be able to actually fog those courts so that the ceiling, the floors, everything else is a lot better than what we're doing today. So as a result of that, I would like to make a motion. I would add that the town board approved resolution, be it resolved that the town board approve the purchase of PPE equipment, including 2 Super C atomizer backpacks, which are like foggers, 4 24-pack Windsor AA batteries, 10 all shield tone free dispensers, which are hand sanitizers, 3 1-gallon pro sanitizers, 4 Twinox disinfectants off of the state bid from Windsor Corporation for the price not to exceed $2,047.78.
Is there a second?
Second. So I got a question, just because it's not glaring at me. I know we did an estimate as to what the PPE cost. Was that 2,000 or 2,500?
No, it was 2,000.
That's what we estimated?
We estimated a little less than that, actually.
So it's more than.
Yeah, it was between 1,800 and 2,000. But we had two bids from them.
I'm just looking at what the effect of the
It showed
budget.
the machine that was a little more, that would do more, and the resolution in terms of when you spray something, it dries within a few minutes.
You're getting
I'm giving
out
you too much.
in the gray area. I'm just looking to see what we talked about at the last budget meeting as to what we estimated for the cost, to see how that affects what is in the budget number. So the budget number either needs to go up more or it needs to be cut.
This is a this year cost, not a
It's
2020,
50.
Oh, okay, never mind.
They can cover
For a year.
it,
and hopefully it'll last a year or close to a year.
and I expect the equipment, we won't need more. And I'm hoping at least the solutions will last a half a year, if not the entire year.
Right, I think next year we estimated like $600 or $700, $800. So there's a number in there for next year.
It was for the solutions, you know,
I
the
think
product to
number next
replenish,
year is
it's not the equipment.
$1,000.
Okay, ready for roll call? Oberly, aye. Cunningham,
Aye.
Juliana,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
motion carried. Next one is a public hearing on community development block grant project.
Right, we have an opportunity to get a community development block grant, which is really federally funded, that gets implemented at the county level. I'd like to propose that we look at Friends Park. Friends Park is eligible for some upgrades. And what we're looking at basically is to replace all of the fencing and backstops in the ballpark itself in Friends Park, to also create ADA pathways to the pavilion and to the playground for young children, and also some blacktopping for handicapped individuals. I've already started the process with our engineer, and it's looking for around about $100,000, which is what the grant really calls for. And so far, it looks like we may have an opportunity to do that. And I'd just like to add that our ball field over there is used by 6 or 7 surrounding towns. So it doesn't just benefit us, it benefits the young little leaguers in surrounding towns as well, which gives us a leg up on being approved. So we want to set a public hearing. So I'd like to make a motion that the town board approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the town board approve a public hearing on November 10th, which is just prior at 6 o'clock. Would it be 6 or 6:30, Carol?
6.
6.
Your public hearing is at 6.
At 6 o'clock PM on Zoom to discuss the proposed CDBG project for Friends Park, and allow the public to comment and give their input.
Is there a second?
Dean Michael, second.
Okay, I have a couple comments. One, when are we gonna have a document that we can post on the webpage describing, so the public knows what to comment about? But there are people who may not be on TV or whatever we're on today that would know about this.
Okay, I can't tell you exactly when, but it'll probably be within the next 3 or 4 working days.
Okay, because it's,
Right.
it's gotta be at least like a week before the meeting.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a week before that, yes.
Okay,
Okay,
Carol needs that post. You know, and that gives sort of a schedule and costs and that kind of thing.
and the public has the opportunity to suggest other things that they
Oh,
feel,
yes,
but they do need that document in order to do that.
yeah, okay.
Okay,
Okay, any more comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. And it's something that I've been asking for several years, is that there's the old tennis court that either needs to be plowed over or whatever. It needs to be secured, because right now it's a safety issue. And I've been commenting that needs to be taken care of. So let's put that in this grant as well, because it's
we
a
can't,
safety.
we can't.
Well, you have to figure the funds, because
And we'll have to cover it or something. The tennis court alone will cost the whole grant.
I'm not talking about making a tennis court. I'm talking about either plowing it under,
Okay,
covering it over, doing something. But the way it is right now, it's a safety issue.
okay, we are going to, information, we are going to do some things ourselves at the local level. We've already, the town highway department has already put a new roof on the pavilion, which saved us a lot of money, probably about $4,000. They're going to move the playground swings from the wetlands in the back toward the front where the parking lot is to make it more accessible for young families and children. We're looking at trying to do something with the skating rink to refurbish that locally ourselves this year. The basketball courts are okay. And you're right, the tennis court is in poor shape, but that would take our entire grant and probably wouldn't qualify. But we will do something about it. Okay?
Okay, ready for a roll call vote? Okay, Oberly, aye. Cunningham,
Aye.
Giuliano,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
motion carried. Next one is the seasonal highway employee. Nancy?
Okay. We've already discussed the fact that we had an individual that worked the summer doing the cemeteries and the parks. And now, as a summer hire, now we want to move it into the winter hire. So I would like to propose that the town board approve Wyatt Kelly as a full-time winter seasonal highway employee starting November 1st through March 31st, 2021. So it's November 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021 at the rate of $14.50 per hour, 32 hours a week with a full-time, with a full-time medical, dental, and visual benefits with an employee pay where the employee pays 15% premium, the cost code D5142140.
Is there a second?
Giuliano, second.
Any discussion?
Hey, I'm sorry about my phone. I have a family member who's critical, and so I had to leave my phone on. I apologize for that.
Okay, sorry. I don't agree that we should make him full-time. We should keep him under, you're gonna pay him the money. I'm not gonna argue with that because that's your decision. But I don't think we should go to the 32 hours. I think we should keep it down at the part-time number so we don't have to get into the medical expenses at this time. I think it's just overloading our budget system and essentially adding another full-time employee to the highway department, which is continually growing. And if you compare the highway department to other highway department people, you'll find that we have about double the number of people per mile than they do. So I don't support the hours so that it becomes full-time. Whatever the medical and stuff is extra. And I don't begrudge him the $14.50. That's the number you want, fine. The other part is, where is it coming out of the highway budget?
What?
Nobody's talked to me. Where's the money to fund it?
Well, I know that Todd has talked to you about this.
And we had a meeting and we did not talk going full-time. We did not talk 32 hours. We talked part-time. That's all we talked. So this is all new today when you started telling me on the phone and in the emails. This is a surprise. So without the funding, I don't support this.
According to Todd, I wasn't at any of these meetings, so I can only go by what I've been told. We did call him part-time seasonal, but the numbers were still the same. $14.50 an hour, 32 hours a week. Maybe he didn't call it full-time. I wasn't at the meeting, but these are the facts. And this is what he was working as a summer person as well. Okay. So,
we must be very careful on full-time.
again, I'll point out that yes, it's more money. However, this person is really working and we are not taking and hiring any laborers. And the cost of laborers would have been a lot more and they would have been, so we're not really, well, it's a wash when it comes to the finances.
That's your statement.
I hear you, Ray. I hear
I
you.
said it's your statement. I just say, I don't know where the money's coming from.
Mhm.
Because we never
But
talked
isn't
about
he
it.
already in the budget system now at 32 hours?
Yep.
I don't know.
Then it's the same.
Between
He's
that
at 29.
and between cemetery,
Wait,
that's what he's been working. Yeah.
Carol, you said it was, what was?
Yeah, the budget has him, that position at 13.10 an hour for 29 hours a week for a maximum of 500 hours for that November 1 to March
That's season.
period.
Oh, you're talking the budget, the
Yeah,
proposal.
he asked me what the budget was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not gonna fly.
Well-
It's not gonna fly. And now if we want to reject this, then we'll be looking for another person because he's not gonna work for less than he did as a summer seasonal.
You know, I want to say we're trying to build longevity, not go through these employee issues that we've had on here. You know, we build people, we train people. It costs more money to train as we get more and more people in. We spend more time training, and if the person is doing well at his job, I think there's a benefit to that as far as that goes. So I'm in favor of that.
So how many people does Todd have for the winter help right now?
That's it.
So he's the only one.
Right now, he has nobody else.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And he's very concerned about covering everything.
I would be
That's
concerned
why
because we're saying this winter's going to be.
Individual with experience, because he's been back and forth,
Yep.
would be beneficial for us as well.
You know,
Well, I've heard that we've been having a problem even finding replacements for the people that have
Yes.
left.
So I just wanted to, I had a text come in, which there was kind of goes back to one of the other things we were talking about, but since we're talking about benefits and stuff like that, Todd sent me a text that the new guy has a wife on there. That's it. So if we're figuring out, you know, cost of health insurance and so forth, that's what we're up against. So, I mean, we're looking at this and kind of, I guess, you know, yeah.
That's
Along the same
quick
line.
guess is it's about a 12,000 hit on medical coverage.
Mhm.
That's a quick, maybe a little bit off, but just to say that's what it will be in next year's budget. So that'll be another factor that isn't in the budget at all because we didn't have it there.
No, that was not in the budget. You're right.
So, I mean, he's basically serving he's supposed to be, from what you and I talked about, Nancy, he's driving the small truck, right? So that takes care of like the
And he-
complex.
And he's a wingman also.
And he's a wingman too, but you know, the small truck typically takes care of the complex, which
Right,
means that he's probably shoveling all the walkways and everything else.
right.
Right. So are we not going to do that?
Todd will have nobody. The only other person that can do that is Todd. And we're not going to put Todd out there to do that. Okay.
Also, I mean, along these lines of keeping employees, we've already, just recently, we lost an employee that in the highway department that was fantastic to another town. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
we can't keep doing this.
Let's just say you decided not to do this. And I don't know where I'm going to find somebody with the license to do this. Enough experience, so we're putting it behind the wheel, okay? And they can do damage if they don't know what they're doing.
And
And for working for $13.50.
we're getting late. in the
Hello.
season. So I mean, everybody's already planned usually for, you know, the highway. Well, I heard that Red Hook and Rhinebeck are having an issue. I heard the Village, not that I should be talking about other towns, but I heard the Village is short. So they're looking to hire people. So the town may be subcontracted to the Village to plow in Rhinebeck. And that's probably an issue with other towns as well, that they're short, because I heard Red Hook had an issue too. So there's limited people out there, especially at this price range,
Right.
that's willing to function. So I think we're fighting for pennies here. This
No.
is not the area that where we need to scrimp.
As I said, I wasn't questioning the dollars per hour. I'll never win that one, so I don't even argue. I just arguing about full-time, 29 versus 32. That's my issue. And then where does the extra costs, if we do the full-time, where does the money come from?
I mean, I haven't been
Not
in
the highway
the
budget.
highway, so I'm leaving it up to Chris and Nancy to tell me, but it just seems like we've lost two people in the highway. I mean, it just seems like we're really shorthanded at this point. I don't know.
And it's been confirmed with me that he is the only person that can shovel the walks,
Mhm.
unless it's Todd doing it.
Hey, Mike, we all might be out there doing it, just like the garbage.
Want to talk about demoralized employees? Get us out there.
Well,
We also clean the bathrooms too. I'll just throw that in.
Whoa.
that's the side issue. That's really not a joke, because in the event that we do have a snow emergency, some of us may have to step
Yeah.
up and man the phones and do
Well,
some.
I did that 2.5 years ago, and what really, and I had called the highway to make sure everybody was okay. Didn't know if anybody needed anything, but nobody answered the phone. So when I came down to the highway, they were just all scattered everywhere. And I think it was Todd. He says, "Why don't you jump in the small truck and plow the complex?" So I ended up plowing the complex. I had fun, but still, I mean, I'm more than willing to help. But that we can't plan on that. We should just be like an emergency.
Dean, you're hired.
No, he had
10 an hour.
in the budget,
You're shoveling though.
Who's that, me?
I can't.
So are we gonna move on this or not?
no, I just want to make one more comment. There is money for wingmen in the budget.
Well, he functions as a wingman too.
And so there are those wingmen that also sometimes shovel the sidewalks too. They don't have to be on the wings all the time, or they run some of the small trucks over the years.
Right.
So we're not down to this one guy doing all of this work. It's being shared
No.
with other people that he has on his call list, and I don't know what the call list is for this year.
No, I wasn't indicating that. I was simply saying he's kind of the fail-safe. Whatever is needed, that's what he's gonna be doing. That's it.
Okay, end of discussions? Ready for roll call? Okay, make a roll call vote. Oberly, no. Cunningham,
Aye.
Giuliano,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
motion carried. Any other business? I don't have anything else listed or know of. Okay, so we'll adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? I mean, my mistake. Roll call vote. Oberly, aye. Cunningham,
Aye.
Giuliano,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Witten,
Aye.
motion carried.